Today I interview Jose Piñero, who says, "You are at a disadvantage in your career if you don't have a coach, mentor, or sponsor." Let me repeat that again. You are at a disadvantage in your career if you don't have a coach, mentor, or sponsor. Jose has won awards such as Top 100 U.S. Hispanics to Watch, Top 100 Prominent Latinos in the Business World, and the Latino Trendsetters Award. All these awards reflect who he is, an intelligent Latino who has 20 plus years of Fortune 100 business experience. Winning those awards proves that Jose knows the ins and outs of the corporate world. He knows how to succeed in it, and he wants you to succeed too. And the fastest way to achieve success in corporate America is by having a coach. A lot of us Latinos are born at a disadvantage, but we could get up to speed by seeing the bigger picture and by having a coach on our side. Jose takes us on a journey from how he went from Puerto Rico to an Ivy League education to his first job at Proctor Gamble. From Procter & Gamble, he had a lucrative career at Microsoft that converted him into the multi-talented entrepreneur that he is today. This episode is replete with advice and career experience that will help you become a better professional. Jose discusses the importance of managing your boss, the importance of having good communication, and the importance of working with people who are smarter than you. With Jose on our team, he will provide all the resources and tools he possibly can so you too can win the award of Top 100 U.S. Hispanics to Watch and Top 100 Prominent Latinos in the Business World. Not only does he want you to win those awards, he wants you to surpass him. Hey everyone, I'm Nicholas Aguirre. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Jose Piñero. He is a corporate veteran, an entrepreneur, and a business coach. He is currently the vice president at MarchX and the founder of Latino Performance Leadership. He also has a podcast called Mucho Success, and he has an up-and-coming book with the same title called Mucho Success. Jose Piñero, thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to interview you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Jose, one of the things that really caught my attention about you, besides you following me on Instagram, when I read your biography, one of your missions is to help Latinos become more empowered and more successful. I would like to know, what made you, want to take on that responsibility in America to help empower Latinos and help them become more successful? That seems like a big challenge.
So first of all, Nicolas, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to be here with you. And I love the work you're doing. We're on similar paths to help Latinos, become more successful, become more empowered, and ultimately realize our full potential in the U.S. About your question, so here's a little bit about how I think about this. I am a fan of superheroes and Spider-Man, and I love that quote of with great power comes great responsibility. And I feel like people like you and I, we're very lucky. We have an opportunity to do many things. We have an opportunity to create platforms, to talk to people, to bring a message. And at some point in my life, I realized how lucky I was. And because of that, I at some point I realized not everybody has the same opportunities, especially Latinos. And the more I have worked in corporate America, the more I have worked in the nonprofit sector and with different organizations, the more I have realized that Latinos, many of us are at a disadvantage here in the U.S. And I want to change that. I want to bring information. I believe that access to information and data allows us to think about what's possible and to create tangible game plans for people to achieve more success. So I said to myself at some point, I had one of those, a couple of experiences, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, where I realized, wow, this needs to be done, and I am here. I have some of this information, I have some of these experiences, and I chose as my personal mission in life to help other people, specifically, women and minorities in the U.S., and with a particular focus on Latinos. And I'll tell you a couple of things that happened to me that may give some indication of where this is coming from.
Please do.
At some point, when I went to college, I went to Cornell University, and when I got to Cornell, I was the first, couple of weeks I was in temporary housing, so in a room with two other roommates while they were finding my final room, and then they said, "Hey, we have the room for you. It's in U-Hall 3 or U-Hall 5. You have to go there." go there and meet your future roommate. And when I walked to this other building, and when I got to the door of my room, the room that was going to become my room, there was a notepad, one of those, that have like the marker that you can erase.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who lived there had written, "Why can I get a roommate from Long Island?" Question mark.
Wow.
And I read that, and I'm like, wow, this guy doesn't know me, has not met me. The only thing that he knows about me is my name, which is, of course, Jose Piñero, which, of course, is Latino. And this guy doesn't want to be my roommate. He wishes they had sent somebody, I'm assuming, like him from Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really eye-opening experience where I felt, wow, I grew up in Puerto Rico. I didn't feel rejected or marginalized before. And when I saw that, I'm like, wow, people do have biases. People do have prejudices. So that happened to me, and that was very telling. The second thing that happened to me that comes to mind, it's a very trivial moment, but it really it sent like a lightning bolt through my body. I was already working for Microsoft. I was doing some big event in New York City. I was staying at the Soho Grand, like a super nice, fancy hotel. I check in New York City. I check into the hotel. They tell me, "Oh, don't worry, Mr. Piñero, we'll send your luggage to your room directly." So I went to the room. I opened the door. It was like a summer day in New York. The room was white and bright and beautiful, and I'm in heaven, right?
Yes.
And then somebody knocks on my door, and I'm thinking, "Oh, it's a luggage, right?" So I opened the door, and Nicolas, I opened the door, and there was a guy standing in front of me. He was about my same height, brown, wavy hair like mine. And I'm like, wow, this guy looks like me. And then I look at his name tag, and his name was Jose. And in that moment, I get goosebumps when I think about this. And in that moment, I realized we're all the same. Like, I just got lucky that I got born in this situation. I could be him, he could be me. And the difference for me was that I got, we could argue different things, but I got lucky that I got placed into certain opportunities or positions or roles, and that one thing led to another, and I have a high-paying job and, a great life. And I'm not saying this person doesn't have a great life, but I could have his job, he could have mine. We're all the same. And to me, that really sent a big signal like, wow, I just got lucky. And I want other people to have that same luck. I want other people to have the same or better opportunities than the ones I had. So my job in life, I already, I'm very blessed, I'm very happy. It's how can I help other people achieve more, realize their dreams, get to a higher level, realize their potential, become more successful. And the way in which I do that is through a lot of what I would say information sharing, education, and sharing the knowledge that I have seen over my 20 plus years experience in corporate America, working with nonprofits, also having my own businesses, being an entrepreneur, coaching, and talking to people. So that's kind of a little bit of the background. And in the last, I would say, 5 years, I have really gone deep into this. And I have a couple of businesses that basically focus on bringing that information, that leadership development, that coaching, that training to minorities and women, and with a specific focus on Latinos. So my company coaches Latinos in top, Fortune 100 companies. It's amazing what we learn and what we find from them. And it's all about how can we help each other, how can we mentor each other, what have other people learned and used that has worked for them, and how can we apply that to Latinos so we can elevate our community.
For sure. Jose, I just really want to emphasize, I love what you're doing. Like you said, you want other Latinos to have success, and you want them to be lucky, and you want more of them to be in situations like you. That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. I don't have the experience and intelligence as some of my guests have had, like how you have had. I'm on the journey to that, but I knew I had to do something about it because I wanted more Latinos to have access to people like you and more access to my former guests and to my future guests, so we can all we can all elevate together. So I just want to say thank you.
Exactly.
I just want to say thank you for what you're doing again.
Thank you, and the same thing to you. Thank you for doing this. We need your voice. We need your effort. We need your time. We need your commitment, because that's how we help each other. And I have a few things that I'll share in this interview. But one of them is that we Latinos sometimes we have a mentality of scarcity. We think, oh, if he won or if he succeeded, that means that there's no space for us. And the message that people like you and I have to share is that the summit, it's huge. We all fit up there. We can help each other. We need to extend a hand and pull other people up. We need to help each other. The more of us that do positive things, that share the message, that help each other, the better our entire community will be. And I applaud that you have the podcast, that you're doing the work with the outreach. And it doesn't matter the experience or the knowledge. We need this to happen. So I really commend you for your effort and your work.
Thank you again. So I want to start the interview by asking you, well, we've already started. We've gone to a lot of good topics already, but I really want people to get to know you a little bit more. When I look at your resume, when I look at your LinkedIn, you're really heavily involved in business. So I just want to ask you, when were you first attracted to business and entrepreneurship?
So it's interesting because I didn't think I liked business when I was a kid. But I did like to do or organize things. So even when I was like in grade school, I was organizing either the class performance or what are we going to do as a collective group. I wasn't really into sports, but I did love showing up, and I remember doing a lot of different, call it like artistic or musical performance related to music. Then when I got to 8th or 9th grade, I got involved and becoming in leadership, becoming class president and things like that. And then when I was in high school, I love organizing things. So I was the president of my school's student council, and we organized everything. We had all these, activities and all these programs, and we went to competitions on television in Puerto Rico. And I love all that. And I guess that's kind of like one of my skills. So then when I was in college, I ended up getting a degree in hotel management, which is a business degree. And I love marketing, and I love business. So I realized I enjoyed those classes the most, and I like to talk to people about what they're doing and how are they building companies, how are they trying to bring products to market. I love talking to even my kids about the marketing campaigns that movies are using to promote new releases and all that. I just enjoy that. So I do that in my spare time. And I think to me, life is like a big puzzle, and it's a journey to find the different pieces, shed a light on how they come together. And then the more information you know about things and people, the better you get at putting the puzzle together, and then the answers come to life. So I love thinking about business. I love thinking about psychology. And I love how those things, ultimately, I think you can explain almost everything in life based on human psychology, human behavior, needs and wants. And by the way, the great businesses are companies that deliver and fulfill a need that somebody has. If you have a problem and you give a company $10 for their product and their product solves your problem, you're going to be happy, buying that product over and over again. Think about food or drinks or something people buy consistently. You buy it because it does something for you. And typically the great products are the ones that give you more value than what you pay for them. So I kind of look at life that way, and I apply the same framework to not only like business problems, but also situations. I have done work with nonprofits that focus on community services and homelessness and providing food and shelter to people. It's the same thing. You're trying to solve a problem by applying, strategy, business knowledge, looking at alternative solutions, having a systematic framework for testing potential answers or solutions. And then once you find something that works, you grow that, you replicate that, or you scale it up. So I see life as kind of like a diagram of things that come together, and data doesn't lie. People, when you talk to people and you find out how they really think, you get to the core, either worries or concerns or pain points, and it all comes together. And so I think that that's like a framework I enjoy using for life.
To help develop your business skills, I noticed that you went to a Cornell University. That's an Ivy League school. For those Latinos that are listening to this podcast that are interested or that have aspirations to go in Ivy League school, why did you go to the Ivy League school and what did you learn from there?
Yeah, so I got very lucky that I got into a really great school, Cornell University for undergrad, and then Georgetown University for my master's of business administration, an MBA degree. I read about a lot of colleges and universities. I applied to tons. I did not get accepted to some that I wanted to go to, and I got accepted into those, and to several, and then I chose those. I think that what I learned, the biggest lesson at Cornell was me going from Puerto Rico to the U.S. to a pretty large school and realizing the diversity of thought, because we sometimes fall into the fallacy of assuming that other people just think like us. And especially when you come from a small place like Puerto Rico or a specific community, you may think, the sky is gray, and everybody thinks the sky is gray. And you could go to a different place where they go, no, actually, the sky is orange, and here's the reasons why. And because every day they see it orange in Hawaii, they may think the sky is orange. Mm-hmm. So I realized, wow, there are many different points of view, and it really expanded my horizon in terms of thinking, and at least giving me a desire to listen to more diverse perspectives. So that was super helpful. And then I think that the other thing that really helps is just having to make it on your own, because we have a lot of family and community in our Latino heritage, and sometimes it's good to go and have to survive for a little bit and figure out, okay, how do I make things happen without mom or dad or grandma or my friends? So I think developing that independence was also very helpful to me.
Was it a no-brainer to go get your MBA at Georgetown because of your knack for business and your love for solving problems and business strategy?
It was a no-brainer to go to get a graduate degree after undergrad. I'll tell you what happened. So I finished Cornell. I went and spent the summer in Hawaii. In Hawaii, I realized, wow, I was working at a hotel in Hawaii for the summer. It was a fun job, but there I wasn't learning that much. And I realized, wow, I really want to, I love learning. I want to continue learning at an accelerated pace. So after a few months in Hawaii, I realized, hey, definitely I want to go back to grad school as soon as possible. Luckily for me, I had already applied, but I had thought about deferring the admission or waiting 1 or 2 years before going to grad school. So after a couple of months in Hawaii by myself, with no money, in a job in a hotel where I wasn't learning that much, I said to myself, I need to go back to school and continue learning and landing, a job that would be more appropriate and that would really be a good fit. I love situations where I'm learning constantly. I think that's one of the gifts that probably my grandmother gave to me, was that love for learning. And I think if you don't ever stop learning, you will always continue growing. And even with, today I lead a business at Marchex, and I have a team that works on a large business. And to me, that's one of the things that I hope that it's one of the things that I bring up to the team, is this constant desire to learn things, to test things, to put a theory forward and say, hey, we think that the issue is X, or we think that the opportunity is Y. Let's test something. Let's do a pilot. Let's see what we learn. Let's adjust on the fly, and then continue growing, moving forward. So yeah. I think that Latinos need to hear this. Going to college is one of the things that will open the greatest number of opportunities for you. And to this day, I can tell you that I wouldn't have gotten some of the positions or some of the opportunities if I didn't go to college. And even with, I lead a business at Marchex, and I have a team that works on a large business. And to me, that's one of the things that I hope that it's one of my some of the things that I bring up to the team is this constant desire to learn things, to test things, to put a theory forward and say, hey, we think that the issue is X, or we think that the opportunity is Y. Let's test something. Let's do a pilot. Let's see what we learn. Let's adjust on the fly, and then continue growing, moving forward. So yeah, so I would think that if I had not gotten the college degrees that I got. Because again, it's about who you meet. It's about what people, see in you. And, it doesn't matter, that what I studied at college, people just know that I went to certain schools. They automatically make some assumptions about me. And that's good and that's bad. But in my case, it has helped me many times. So I think that one of the things that we need to promote is the need and what opportunities are available because you go to college. And I think we need to get more Latinos to go to college in the U.S. and get not only undergrad degrees but graduate degrees. There's a huge need for more Latinos and people of color to be in post bachelor's degree positions. So and that it never hurts you. Like people can stay, finish your 4-year degree, maybe stay for 1 more year, 2 more years. It just opens more doors for you. I have not met anybody who has said, well, I regret that I went to school and that I got a bachelor's degree or that I got, a master's degree. I still haven't met one single person that has said that to me. So we need to increase the numbers of Latinos that go to college.
I think you're definitely right. At least for sure, I haven't heard anyone say that they regret their bachelor's degree. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I want to transition to your career with Microsoft, and one of the reasons why you caught my attention again is because you're very heavily involved in corporate America, and I haven't had a guest on my show that's heavily involved in corporate America like you. So I'd like you to educate people, my audience, who is interested in a career in corporate America. And I think you have a very good career at Microsoft because you started there very young, and you've had so many different titles there. And to use a phrase, you've literally climbed up the corporate ladder at Microsoft. So how did you get into Microsoft in the first place?
Well, so before Microsoft, I worked at a company called Proctor Gamble, P&G, which is, a lot of people don't know the name of the company, but they know their products. They are the company that creates and sells Tide, the detergent, Pampers, the diapers, Head and Shoulders, Pantene, the shampoos, Crest, the toothpaste, Charmin, the toilet paper, Bounty, the paper towel. They have, cosmetics, and they have, it's one of the largest consumer packaged goods companies in the world. And Procter & Gamble is an amazing company, and many of us think of it as the school. We call it like the little school.
Okay.
Because it's one of the best training grounds for business and for marketing in the world. So P&G found me at Georgetown when I was doing my master's degree. So I ended up working for Procter & Gamble for 4 years. And then at some point, I went to Los Angeles for a Hispanic MBA conference. And I was recruiting people for P&G. And somebody from Microsoft saw me and talked to me. And I didn't realize, I fill out a coupon for a raffle. And that's how they got my name and my phone number and my email. And then so Microsoft called me. And then a couple months later, I was moving to Seattle to work for Microsoft. And at Microsoft, I started as a low level product manager, and then I was product manager in games. Then I went to lead like the small business segment, the medium-sized company segment. Then I went and oversaw all marketing for a Microsoft subsidiary. Then I worked in the server teams. Then I worked into finance and accounting software for Microsoft. Then I did one of my favorite jobs ever, where I was the head of multicultural and diversity marketing for the entire company. And in that job, I learned so much about the challenges that people of color and all the other minority groups face every day, not only in corporate America, but also in the U.S. I ended up becoming the voice of Microsoft for the Latino community, and doing a lot of work not only with the Latino community, but also with the African American community, women's efforts, LGBT, accessibility, and many other areas. So that job was amazing and super eye-opening. And then after that, I went back into after probably 4 years doing that role, I went back into the business groups where I work in video, entertainment. I ended up working a lot with Xbox and with new devices, AR, VR technology, and some of the fitness and, wearable products. So I went through a lot of different jobs at Microsoft. And what I'll tell you about that is that companies, there are great, amazing careers to be had. And we need to get more Latinos into those jobs. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that most people don't come in on day one ready to do a job at 100%. Most of these companies, what they're looking for is either potential or capability or like the drive and the motivation. And a lot of people like me, a lot of it, you learn on the job. When I started with P&G, I didn't know how to do great marketing.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea, but they trained me. When I got to Microsoft, it's like at every point in time, you kind of know how to do, let's say, 50 to 60% of your job. The other 40%, you're learning on the go. And you just have to have your eyes and your ears open, be very driven, ask questions, show up, and learn as you go, and ask tons of questions. Because I think that maybe some Latinos assume that they cannot have these jobs or that they're not qualified. And I would push back on that. I would say, hey, if you're hungry, if you're driven, if you're motivated, if you are curious, if you know how to learn, you can go into any situation. If you show the right attitude, you can learn on the job and you will grow and you will get more opportunities. Who gets the promotion or who gets the next assignment? The person that has proven that he or she is doing a great job, that has already delivered, and that they're ready for the next step. So I do a lot of work coaching Latinos in corporate America, and a lot of the work is in helping them balance, who they are, what they hope that they want to achieve, and then balancing the approach on how they go about that. So I'll tell you more in a couple minutes about some of the models, but we need to get more Latinos in corporate America. The jobs are there. These are great jobs, high-paying jobs, and we just need to educate our people about the opportunity and then coach them through the process so they understand how the game gets played and how things work. Once you know those things, your chances of success are very high.
I see right here that I think you had 6 different titles in Microsoft. Is that what you did? How did you have how did you move up the corporate ladder? Is that what, did you take your own advice? You just showed up, you learned on the job, you were willing to learn, you were coachable. I'm sure you networked in the company. You made friends with whoever you need to you made friends with whomever you need to make friends with. What was your secret to moving up the corporate ladder so fast and so efficiently?
So, okay, first of all, I have to reset the expectations. I did not do such a great job all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes I did well. So at some other points in my career, I did not do so well. And there were periods where I had challenges. So, and that's also part of the lesson. Like, life is not a straight line with that, it's perfect. No, I had great years and I had some years where I'm like, shoot, am I doing a good job? I don't think I'm cutting it. I don't think I'm doing great. And other times I thought I was doing great. And my manager told me, hey, I think you're struggling here. What's going on? So, first of all, I want to just be very open and vulnerable that life is not perfect. So second, I had more than 6 jobs at Microsoft. I think that on average, every 2 or 2.5 years, either I switched jobs or the job I had changed. So one of the lessons and one of the things we have to tell our people is you have to be flexible because the jobs change, and it's not about me. It's about what the company needs and what the business wants or requires at a specific point in time. In terms of what I did well, I think that I was very driven and very motivated to do well, and that's something that is about me. I don't like to disappoint people. I want to keep my word. I want to show up and under promise and over deliver. I did not do such a good job at the networking or the becoming friends with people higher up. There were moments where I had good mentors, and there were other moments where I failed because I was too scared of asking somebody to become my mentor. And again, one of the things that we do when I coach people in corporate America today, people need to have mentors or coaches or sponsors. You need to have somebody that's 1 or 2 levels above you, that knows your name, who knows what you're doing, who cares about you, and at least is willing to meet with you for coffee once every 3 months. and give you some advice, or for you to go and say, hey, I'm thinking about X or Y as my potential next career step. What do you think of that? That's all, those conversations are very important. The other thing that it's one that we advice we give to every single person we coach is as follows. One, you need to manage your boss. It's your job to manage your boss.
That might sound.
And people think, oh no, people go, wait, I thought it was my boss's job to manage me. And the answer is actually the opposite.
Exactly. I was about to say that might scare some people.
No, but let me explain what it means. First of all, if you're not managing your boss, you're not really managing your career and your destiny. You need to make sure that your boss knows what you're doing. And second, part of your job, I tell people you have basically two jobs when you're working in corporate America. Your job number one is doing and delivering on your commitments and your specific job responsibilities. What they put on paper that your job is about doing X and Y. That's part one. The second part of your job is making your boss more successful. Not making your boss more successful. Because if you make your boss successful, the company and your boss is going to love you. So that's part one. And then the other tip we give our coachees, the people we coach, is you need to make sure that your boss's boss knows what you're doing and what you're delivering. Specifically, what result are you giving to the company? You know why? Because your boss's boss is the person that will approve your promotion. Your boss doesn't approve your promotion in most companies. If I have one of my employees, I'm not the one who says, hey, I want to promote John, and I just promote him or her. No, I have to go to my boss, in this case, it's the CEO of the company, to say, hey, I want to promote John. And the first thing that my boss will say is, he will say one of two things. He will say, absolutely, I love that John did that project that grew the revenue by 25%. That's fantastic. That's option A. That's the perfect example and the perfect positive example. It would be a really bad situation if my boss says, wait, who's John? When I go to recommend a promotion for, yeah. And so again, so John, somebody in my team, and this is a hypothetical person, he or she needs to make sure that their boss's boss knows what they're doing and what kind of results they're bringing for the company. Make sense?
It definitely makes sense. I think that's very good advice that anyone could apply to any aspect, any career in life.
Yeah. And sometimes we have coach people that are having a hard time with their boss or their direct manager. So we tell them, hey, just, if you can just have this mental picture where right now you're sitting across the table, facing each other. Just mentally get up from that position, walk around the table, and sit next to your boss. And figure out what can you do to help him or her become more successful.
That's very great.
If you do that,
that's very great advice. Yeah.
If you do that, I bet that your career is going to get on a better track.
One thing that I want to dig a little deeper in, you said that being a director of diversity and multicultural marketing was your favorite position at Microsoft. Could you tell us what those daily tasks was like when you were the director? Like, what exactly does that position entail, and what was your daily activities like?
Yeah, so that role had several components. Part one was ensuring that we were having the right representation in how Microsoft showed up for all these communities. So in terms of community involvement, in terms of what we said as a company, in terms of the initiatives the company created and ran to ensure that they were promoting or beneficial to all those minority audiences. Second, to become the link between Microsoft and all the key organizations that dealt with Latino, African American, women, LGBT, and all other minority groups in the U.S. And last, helping different groups across the company understand the opportunity and how to best serve the needs of those communities from a business perspective. So when we were creating products, ensuring that we took Latinos into consideration and ensuring that we had either bilingual offerings or that we had culturally sensitive and appropriate offerings. So typically on that, I was running a bunch of initiatives to ensure that we were driving the right stories about the company, to ensure that we were connecting and offering things that were valuable to those groups, and last, helping some of the teams learn how to market and create offerings and products for those groups. It was super interesting.
It definitely sounds like it. That's why I wanted to follow up on that question. It sounds like you manage a lot of people. How did you become a good manager?
I have, and again, setting expectations. Right now, I manage a large team, about 20 people plus, right? But at some point, I've managed smaller teams, and then at some point, I have been an individual contributor, depending on the role. I have also managed two different types of interesting teams. One, where you have a geographically dispersed team, where I'm sitting in the U.S., in Seattle, and I had some people in Denmark, some people in New Zealand, some people in London, some people in the Midwest, some people in Washington, D.C. So managing teams that are sitting in different places is very interesting. And the best thing that works for that is the weekly conference call where we all come together and we go through a round robin of what are the key priorities for the team. The other example I want to share, because I think a lot of people will see more and more of those, is when you manage what I would call either a matrix or a virtual team, which is a combination of some people that directly work for you and you're their manager or their boss, but also you also may have other company employees that are not in your team or in your hierarchy, but they are part of a project, and you still have to manage them and work with them and coach them, even though you're not responsible, you're not their manager, and you don't have a say on their performance. And also sometimes you have agencies, either marketing agencies, advertising agencies, public relations agencies, or contractors or vendors that are part of a team. So I think this is a brave new world where you're going to see a lot of combinations where you have to manage people that don't officially report into you. But again, it's all about how do you motivate somebody to come on board, to work with you, and to be aligned on the mission and the goals, and how do you execute against that. So I think that the best thing, and sometimes I've been a good or a great manager, and sometimes I have not done so well. But I think the biggest thing is ensuring that you have clarity on what the goals are, specifically what are the outcomes you want to achieve. Because if you have clarity on that, then what you do to achieve those, the strategies and the tactics and the programs, that's secondary. But if you know that your biggest goal is to grow market share by 15 points, or is to grow a business by 20% in the next year, and you know then exactly what's more important, then things cascade and fall under that. So I urge people to spend more time getting very clear on the goals and getting alignment and agreement, because once you agree on the goals, everything else kind of falls into place.
You might have answered this question already, but what lessons did you learn working at Microsoft? Like your top one or two lessons that have always stuck with you to this day?
Number one, the importance of communication. And this sounds very weird, but at Microsoft, communication, I learned how important communication is. Not only what you say, but how you say it. And I work on many, let's say, big company announcements related to Xbox or other products, or launching, a version of Windows. And it's amazing. It's a technology company. What Microsoft offers is basically solutions and software. But at the end of the day, it's all about how you communicate something. So choosing the right words, when to announce, when to say it, how to position things, that's super important. The other thing I learned at Microsoft is that you have to be comfortable working with people who are smarter than you, who know a lot more than you. And because plenty of people are that smart, and it doesn't matter the level of intelligence that every person has. in spite of that, or everybody has something to contribute. So you have to work to make sure that every single person shares their knowledge, shares their insight, and sometimes the person that knows the least about a topic can either ask the best question or say the most insightful thing. I've been in situations where people discount others. Oh, like he or she doesn't know that much about this, or oh, I don't care. No. And then that person, that we think knows the least about a topic ends up bringing the point or the data that we needed. So everybody has something to contribute, and you have to have an open mind about it.
For the Latino Leadership Performance, what is it and what services do you provide?
So Latino Leadership Performance, basically it's a company I founded that its goal is to help Latinos, specifically Latino professionals, do better with their careers and their lives. And what we do a few things. One, we do what we call leadership development via individual coaching or group coaching. We do seminars and events for corporations, and we also do consulting so that non-Latino leaders in companies can learn to bridge and better understand the Latino community. So we have done coaching for Latino professionals in Fortune 100 companies, companies, the top technology companies, large companies. We work with Latino professionals, and we develop a model that's called the ABCs of Latino leadership, and that stands for assets, blind spots, and competencies. And it's a model we use that it's really helpful for people to understand where they are and how they show up. And for example, we, as Latinos, there are some elements of our culture that show up for us every day. And some of those elements could be assets for us, could be strengths that we bring to the workplace. So for example, our sense of community, or our desire to emote and to communicate. Those are things that, if used the right way, are extremely positive and key strengths and key assets for us. Then the B is the blind spots, which is things that we don't realize that may hold us back, or that may make other people perceive us in not the best way. So for example, the Latino culture is high on context and details. If you ask, we give a lot of detail when we tell stories. Latinos are storytellers. That may be great for a specific situation, but if in a company, if the VP of a division asks Juan, "Hey Juan, how's Project X going?" And Juan goes into his answer and he goes, "Well, let me tell you, we were facing so many issues. First, I had to call, John in accounting because he had an issue with X, Y, and Z. Then we had to call Mary and we had to figure out that she had other challenges. Then I was able to get, some answers, and I'm working on this, so maybe..." And the answer that VP wanted was, the project is tracking on time and is projected to hit 5% above budget. That's the answer the VP wanted. Short, direct, concise, straight to the point. So in that environment, that situation, over-indexing on communication and context is bad, because then the VP could say, "Oh, Juan, he doesn't give me answers. He doesn't get to the point. I don't know whether he knows his stuff." That's an example. Another example, Latino culture is high on respect. We respect elders. We respect authority. So how that shows up in the workplace is in an interesting way. Latinos, we over-index, or we tend to say yes to superiors, to our bosses or executives, too quickly. And as a result, we may end up saying yes to a request or a project that may not succeed. So, and by the way, this was something that happened to me many times. People would come, "Hey, Jose, can you take over Project X? Three other people have failed at it, but can you take over that project?" And I would say, absolutely, because in my mind, as a Latino, I'm thinking, my boss is asking me to do this. I want to please my boss. I want to do what's right for the company. I said yes. And in retrospect, I did not do the proper due diligence. I should have checked, is this project doable? Is there, what is the chance of success? Do I have the right resources? Do I have the right budget? Do I have the right time frame for this? Before saying yes to the project. And then in some cases, I was lucky that I was able to, to succeed in a project where 2 or 3 people had failed before me. But other times I inherited a project that was doomed. And then at the end of the year, they told me, hey, you failed on this. You're not going to get a top review or rating because you failed on this project. And I said, well, but you asked me to take on the project. And they said to me, well, you chose to say yes. So again, like that's a blind spot. So there are other things related to the Latino culture where, we don't realize how we're coming across. But for somebody that comes from a different cultural background, he, she, or they may not fully understand, and they may interpret that quality as something different. So again, assets, blind spots, and once you know your assets and your blind spots, you can figure out what your competencies are, and then you can say, hey, here's how I show up to work. So for example, in my case, I try to bring the camaraderie and the friendliness of the Latino culture to my team. At the same time, I know that I have some blind spots that I have to work on because I tend to say yes too quickly to my boss, right? So I'm working on that one. So that's just an example. And if you know that up front, then you can make better decisions. And for example, a tip for when people have a hard time or they say yes too quickly because they want to please, we coach them to say, thank you for asking me to take over this project. Can I take 24 hours to think about it and get back to you with an answer on when I take the project? And that way, you're buying time. You can get away from the moment. You can evaluate everything. You can do your due diligence back 1 day or 2 days later and give an answer on whether you take on the project. So little things like this make a huge difference in how we empower people. And this makes Latinos become more successful in their careers. And by the way, if you're more successful in your career, you're going to be happier, more successful in your personal life too.
Wow, you really hit home with the we have a tendency to say yes to our superiors. I can't tell you how many times I got myself in situations because I said yes right away without giving myself 24 hours to think about it. That's really that's home run advice right there, Jose.
Yeah, thank you. So we do all this coaching work. So people from companies, come, and hire us to come and coach. We do one-on-one coaching. We do group coaching. We also I've done a lot of speaking. So I've spoken at companies and universities for Latino events or Hispanic Heritage Month. And my goal is to share what we have learned by coaching Latinos in top companies, because the lessons from coaching those people are so useful to all Latinos that want to continue growing. And, we need to leverage, I love, I listened to another one of your podcasts, and you're talking about the books that you read. I love that you're leveraging the lessons and the learnings from somebody else. Like, if we do that, we can advance faster and in an easier way. Like, we don't have to make the same mistakes as other people. We can learn from their mistakes.
Little by little, hopefully all the knowledge I gained from those books, I could, I don't want to keep it for myself. Those are things I would want to pass on to other Latinos and to other people that want to learn. Like I said, this is a community effort. On your website, Jose, you say that, you help Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies retain Latino talent. What's corporate America not understanding about Latinos today in 2019 that you try to help them understand about our culture?
It's about understanding the nuances of culture and how that gets reflected. So you would be surprised. We did an event at a company in the Midwest, and we were talking to a non-Latino executive manager, and his eyes were open wide. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His words were, wow, now it all makes sense. I have these Latinos in my team. Now I understand why they behave the way they do. I didn't get it. Because again, for example, like let's take time. Time is a different concept for Latinos than for, let's say, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and non-Latinos.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
A different concept, right?
Yes.
Time for Latinos is to be enjoyed. It's to have a good time. It's to spend with loved ones. We show up to the meeting at the 10 a.m. meeting. We show up at 10:04. We're still on time according to our internal clock. And when we get to the room, we say hi to people. Hey, how's your family? Right? For somebody who's like, for example, I work a guy who was British. Was my successor in a job at Microsoft. He came after I left for a new job, and the guy had a horrible time because he was working with all these Latinos, and for him, starting the meeting at 10:01, it was already late, and he was already upset. And I think it's funny. He had like a chess timer, one of those chess for playing chess, where you click.
Yeah.
He had one of those, so when somebody came and talked to him, he would start the timer.
No way.
So and that, for him, he's British and he's very buttoned up. Oh, great. But do you know how hurtful that can be for somebody who wants to be heard or somebody who wants to say, hey, boss, I need to talk to you? So again, these are cultural clashes. So what we do is we bridge and we connect both sides. We tell Latino employees, here's how, what elements of your Latino culture are assets, which ones are your blind spots. Based on that, you can develop your competency. Here's what you need to do to up-level your performance. And then on the other side, we talk to the non-Latino leaders, and we say, hey, here's what you need to learn about the Latino culture so you are in a better position to understand and work better with the culture. And basically, we're asking the Latino employee and the non-Latino manager to meet somewhere in the middle.
So I'm going to ask you the opposite question. What do Latinos not understand about corporate life and corporate culture today?
Yeah, and that part is mostly about the blind spots.
Got it.
Sometimes Latinos and other groups too, they don't understand how some things can be interpreted by people that don't have the same background or heritage. So the example of context. For example, Latinos, we like to talk about the struggle. Let me tell you everything I had to do to get the outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for some people, that's bad. That when they hear that answer, they're like, I just want a straight, quick answer. Just get to the point, right?
Yes.
So the Latino employee may not understand that he or she is not showing up in the best possible way, and because of that, they may not be perceived to be as sharp as somebody else who gives the answer is 33%, right? So that's one. So Latinos need to understand. They need to understand how their blind spots may be perceived. They need to understand that the perception of how you think about your boss and how you think about your boss's boss. When we coach people, that changes dramatically, because people have the papi, mami, familia, community mentality in the Latino culture. And you think, hey, if I show up every day and do what I'm told to do, they'll take care of me. And the answer, unfortunately, is that will not happen. If you just do what you think you're supposed to be doing and you show up, other people will get promoted before you do, if you get promoted. Latinos need to understand that, if you want to succeed in corporate America, you need to communicate and share your results. You need to market your accomplishments, not only to your boss, but to your boss's boss. And you need to let other people know what you're working on. So that when people say, hey, Nicolas, he's the guy who did X, Y, and Z project. He's awesome to work with. He gets things done. That's what you want people to say. So Latinos need to understand that, that corporate culture, businesses are made to either make profit, increase sales, to win market share. It's a very functional objective. It's not about hanging out. It's not about being there. So we help Latinos understand how that works, and then we help Latinos optimize who they are so that they understand how the game gets played, and then based on that, they can optimize and increase their chances of promotions and success.
On your website, too, you also promote that, you guys do one-on-one coaching. And you mentioned earlier, too, that people do need coaches. This seems like a natural thing to us. Ever since we're little kids, we've always had a coach, whether directly or indirectly. Our parents, little league, high school. If some of us go to college, our professors. What happens around the young adult age that we decide that we don't need a coach anymore? It seems like our ego kind of gets in the way that I don't need a coach. Why do I need a coach anymore? What's your pitch sales to someone to tell them that you do need a coach and this is your benefit of having a coach?
First thing I tell people is, if you're in corporate America and you don't have a coach, you are at a disadvantage, because the top performers have coaches, or have mentors, or have sponsors, or they have the three of them. So everybody can benefit from having that. That's number one. Number two, we are, unfortunately, there's a lot of heritage here involved. We are at a disadvantage in many areas because for example, what you learn when you're a kid is what your family talks about at either the dinner table or in the living room. If my family had spoken about investments and building companies and X, Y, and Z, then by the time I am 13 years old or 15, I know quite a bit about that. So if your family doesn't have the background on, hey, how do you climb the corporate ladder? How do you invest money? How do you build and grow companies? Like, if you don't grow in that environment, you need to get some support so that you can get up to speed, and then you can accelerate your knowledge and expertise in that area. So again, that's the reason why so many Latinos are not into financial, education yet, because we didn't grow up talking about those things. And then if you find somebody who's wealthy, who grew up in a wealthy family where they talk about real estate and investments since they were growing up, that kid, most likely by the time he or she is 15 years old, knows quite a bit about stocks, investing, the stock market, and all that, right?
Oh, yeah, so I see it. I see it to this day.
We have to catch up, yeah. And the same thing with coaching. We think, that's a waste of time and money. Why should I pay somebody to help? But you know what? When we do it, I have the stories. People are so grateful. The best thing about coaching for me is when somebody tells me, wow, this is really helpful. Or when they come back and say, hey, remember, 3 months ago, I was having a challenge. I wasn't sure I fit into X company, or I thought I wasn't welcome in my team, or I didn't think my boss had my back. Remember that? I was able to turn it around, and I'm doing great right now. And my boss loves me, or really, respects me, or gave me the high rating. That means the world to me.
I really want to emphasize what you said, that if you don't have if you're in corporate America or any aspect of life and you don't have a mentor or a coach, you are really at a disadvantage. And I'm not saying this because I currently have a coach. I do not. I want to make that clear. But I try to pick the brains of the best people that I could possibly get. And the number one advice that they say themselves is that they have coaches themselves, and that's what brought them to the next level of success. So I just really want to emphasize that you're not the only one saying that. Other people who have success, who are successful, have admitted that they have had coaches as well.
Yeah, and everybody needs them. And it doesn't matter where you are. There's always somebody who knows more than you, who has gone through different experiences, who can help you. I follow and I am a member of different groups where there's coaching, and there's people that, even sometimes I go into something and I think, I'm not sure, maybe I will not learn that much from this program or this coach, and then I find something completely unexpected that I go, wow, I didn't know this. That's really helpful. And we continue learning, and we all need coaches, we all need mentors, we all need sponsors. And the other thing I want to say is, you never know what will lead to something else. Sometimes the phone call that you took, sometimes the conversation you had in a cafe, sometimes that meeting you had 4 years ago where you said something, that's what leads to something else, or to the great next opportunity. I have a great, corporate job today because of a guy that I worked with 13 years ago. He liked what I did, and he liked the results I delivered. That's how this opportunity came to me. I have had other opportunities and other jobs and other, great chances to work with nonprofits because somebody liked what I said at a meeting. Or somebody met me and they like the energy and what I shared. Like, you never know. You never know. So I also want Latinos to think very openly about, put yourself out there, talk to people, share your thoughts, be curious. I also believe in what I call like the life of service. Like, at the end of the day, everybody, by the way, everybody is going to die at some point. All of us are going to die at some point. So we better make great use of the most limited resource we have, which is time. Time, we all have the same amount of time, more or less. We have to make the best use of it. And nobody has still not found anybody that has said, well, I gave so much service, I help all these people, I regret doing that. No, like, if you show up and if you provide value or help or support to others, you will have a fulfilling and happier life. And I really believe in that. And that's the reason why I do this. That's the reason why you do your podcast. I cannot tell you, you never know if you show up for people in a positive way, the opportunities are endless. And for my podcast, the Mucho Success podcast, I just went out and reached out to people I met 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Some people, they were out of my league. I thought they were going to say no, and they said, yes, I'm super happy to talk to you. And they, like your podcast, the information they have and the knowledge and the advice, it's priceless. So I really feel that, if in life, if we show up the right way like that, the opportunities are amazing.
I just want to share a quick story. It's like what you said. Sometimes you just reach out to people and sometimes you think they're out of their league. One of my guests for Progress Brewing, Diego Benitez, I thought he was out of my league. I didn't think he was going to respond to my email. I was like, what? I'm just going to take a shot at it. But, we all have those negative thoughts sometimes, right? But, within 30 minutes, he emailed me back saying he'd love to come onto the podcast. And I just couldn't believe it that my own assumptions were just broken within 30 minutes. You just never know until you put yourself out there.
Yeah. What's there's a guy named Mickey, a wonderful person, Mickey Ibarra. He ended up working as an advisor to President Bill Clinton. And he gave me one piece of advice. He said, Jose, what is the most powerful word in the world? I said, the most powerful word, I thought it was going to be yes or something, or please, He said, the most powerful word is ask. A-S-K, ask. If you're thinking about something, if you want something, just ask. Because the worst that can happen is that they say no.
Definitely.
So and by the way, I thought I had heard a lot of good lines and a lot of good stories. I heard that one in the last year. And that's one that I keep telling everybody, my kids, my friends, my fiance, you're thinking about something? Ask. You want the promotion? Ask. And of course, you have to think about things and you have to, plan and you have to strategize and all that, but ask. Put it out there, because the worst that can happen is that they say no. And by the way, I also use that, what's the worst that can happen with a lot of people? I'm like, well, you want to pursue this business. I also coach people that want to leave their corporate America job and they want to become entrepreneurs and, found their own companies and start their own businesses. I've done that myself, so I have gone through the process. So sometimes a lot of those people, I ask them, okay, what's the worst that can happen? And once you look at that scenario, you realize that it's not as scary or daunting as you thought. You're like, well, if it doesn't work, then I go back to a job like the one I had. Yes, maybe you cannot go back to the same company where you were, but you can go to a similar job, to a similar company, and more or less be doing the same thing you were doing before. So again, it's about taking out the fear and connecting to what I said earlier. I want also Latinos to not live in a world of scarcity. Scarcity mentality holds us back. It makes us feel like there's not enough pie and enough rewards for all of us. And there's plenty. There's so much room for success. And what I'm hoping is that we'll help more and more Latinos get there.
Jose Piñero, thank you for gracing us with your time and your wisdom and your intelligence. I love everything about you. You form everything. Everything you say has to do with psychology, sociology, life and business experience. And that is some powerful information. And I just want to thank you for sharing that with me and my audience today.
Hey, Nicholas, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I want to let everybody know that, if they would like any help, any coaching, just reach out. I can be reached easily on LinkedIn, Jose Piñero, Instagram, Jose Piñero1, also through our websites, Latino Leadership Performance, .net, and then thecultivationcompany.com. So Latino Leadership Performance and the Cultivation Company, and also I can be reached directly through the other social media channels. And I'm happy to talk to anybody and have a quick conversation and see whether there's anything that I can do to help them. And people can reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to them for free, because I'm so committed to helping people, specifically Latinos, do better. So thank you so much for your time and the opportunity, and please keep going, and please keep sharing your message.
Thank you, Jose. I appreciate it. Have a good day, and hopefully we'll be in communication soon.
Thank you.